went to 97th Avenue, and slowly came back. The 3 bicyclists went by, 2 joggers went by, and I didn't draw their attention to it, but something told me it was meant for me, not for anyone else to see. And then it came back over my head again, and then it orientated itself north and south again, lengthwise, and then I looked at it a little more, and then it just went to the north, and it disappeared behind the trees, never to be seen again. Well, then about the next day, I had this so-called dream or scene or whatever, where I was on board their ship, and I was laying down, and they had this circular pattern thing over my head, and it made like it was green on the inside, and it had like little gray segments in it, and it was making like different concentric circular patterns, and it would shift, and there was like 3 or 4 green spheres on the outside of it, and the spheres would change position. And and every time the spheres would change their positions, there was like the pattern inside of the circular thing would change. And they had this real long Q-tip that went in the right side of my ear. And as they kept rotating it back and forth, this elongated thing went in the inside of my ear, and it didn't hurt. It tickled, but it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt or anything. I wasn't scared. I don't know why I trusted them, but I did. And then when they got done, that was it, and I woke up. Well, I have a ever so slightly raised circular area in the top right of my forehead with a little tiny pinhole in the middle of it, and I have a slight shadowing of a perfect isosceles triangle in the center of my head, like near my hairline. And I knew it was them. So then I had subsequent scenes with them after that where they showed me their ships, they showed me their technology, the flat screen panels that they use for imaging, with the quadruple coupled spherical devices, and then they showed me how to interface with those. Then they showed me the control panels on the ships, and there was 2 or 3 of them that took a personal interest in me, and the main one was Darlon, and he took me down to the generating area of the ship, which is below the main, cockpit area where they fly the ships and everything. And he walked me around, and he showed me these upside-down teardrop shaped, where the wider part of the teardrop is on the bottom, and the thinner part of the teardrop is touching the top of the ceiling of the room. And they were like a cream color with a slight tinge of purplish and a slight tinge of bluish in it. And he said, all you have to do to adjust them is you just touch it. And I touched it, and it would shift. What they are, they're gravitational transponders that convert electromagnetic and negative neutral quantum energy into gravitational fields. It's a field inversion sphere they use. And I went along, and they touch it, and their name for it is called Trigits. They said we call these Trigits. And they showed me all of that, and then a few other times I was with the Aquaruins and the Nyendans and the Humites, because the Humites were working with us as well. And then also the Archerons, and we were up in the ships, and they were showing our Aquaruin ship, and they were showing me the panels and the cylinders where they beam in and out of with the concentric grid plate on the bottom of the cylinder. And they showed me the sphere device that they use with a Saturn ring around it. Or I guess they call them an accretion ring or an accretion ring. And they have it like a control panel, a touch panel. You walk up to it and touch it, and you can interface your energy with the sphere. And they said, we do planetary synthesis as well as the Nyendans and the Humites. And they said, this is we want you to image this. And they showed that the central planetary energy pattern, the Earth on the centralized sphere, and then you reconfigure the domain, and then you send a streamer, one-dimensional silicon wave through that domain. It goes to the center of the Earth, and it corrects the instability of the central planetary energy vortex, is what they do. And they showed me this, and then they showed me other planets that they can tune into, and they can do the same thing. It doesn't matter how many light years you're away or anything, because they use what physicists today call entanglement. They used to call hyperuncoupling. And it's used silicon waves, light harmonic resonances, which is the baseline light harmonic resonance and everything. And if you read the books by B.L. Cathy, he talks about the harmonic of the universe and there's different light harmonic resonances in each type of universe, and each universe has its own light harmonic resonance system. And so they taught me all of this, and they showed me how to do that, and then the Nyandans did. The Humanoid, I think, they were just there observing, more or less. They didn't really interact with us. And then this went on, and then I forgot about that because we were continuing with our other work, the scout missions, rescue missions of other colonies and other planets, where we literally walk them right off the planet up into the motherships and stuff. And then this is like in the late 90s. And then, weirdly enough, because I used to be a nuclear contractor, I was working as a generator jumper on the eddy current crew for Westinghouse, and we were working under the subcontractor spec group, and we were over there in the nuclear plant in the Midwest, and we were in the break room, and I know that the Nyandans had showed me Area 51. They showed me and the Arquequians, Area 51. They showed me the underground colonies. They showed me the different alien races there, and they showed me, that they were being exploited and mistreated by the human military personnel there, and they wanted to take them off world and stuff, and they were asking us for our help. And at that time, I didn't fully understand my complete role at that time. I just knew that I did a lot of rescue missions and stuff of different crew members of different alliances that we were working with. And at that time, we were doing a lot of technical work, and I couldn't figure out what was going on because why are they keep asking us for rescue missions? Why are we fighting these people in space? At the time, I didn't know that we were warriors, that we were light warriors called in from another universe to help out. I didn't know it at the time, so it was all confusing to me at that point why we were doing certain types of work. So then I just went along with it. And then, so anyway, I knew all of this stuff, and at the same time I was in the nuclear industry. Well, then finally I ended up in the Midwest at a nuclear plant outage, and the Westinghouse engineers were in the break room with me, and they asked me, so Susan, half jokingly, half serious, so what's the name of the blue aliens that run Area 51? I mean, just so totally out of nowhere, for no known rhyme or reason or nothing, this engineer walks up to me and asks me this question. And I never talked to anybody about that there when I was there. So none of the other coworkers knew about it. So how did he know? So I proudly, you know how a person stands up really proud and they thrust their chest out and their head back like they're really proud of what they know. And I said, the Arquequians. Within 2 hours later, I was escorted off the site and sent home.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good place to take a break. Good story, Jean.
All right. So now that's a. Can you hear me? All right.
Yeah. Richard Knight.
Okay.
Richard Knight has joined us as well, Susan. So just so you know.
Oh, good. So I'll ask you questions. Okay. Wait, you gave me the talking stick, so let me. I'm going to lose what I was going to say. Oh shoot. Let me get what I was going to say.
Story.
Okay, so this guy, how did he know? Wait, don't you answer. No, don't you answer. This is for Susan. Okay, Susan. And you know the answer. You know in your higher self. How did this guy know?
It's very simple. Westinghouse was one of the main leaders of the reverse engineering of any craft that was crashed on this planet Earth. They take it back to the different various bases. I don't remember the bases' names now. I think it's Wright-Patterson and Nellis and all those other bases. And there's Aberdeen testing grounds. And I think the Ames Laboratories or something, and they do the reverse engineering. Well, obviously they have the aliens working with them elbow to elbow, teaching them what to do and everything. Well, Westinghouse was the ringleader. They were the main ones doing the reverse engineering, as per Stanton Friedman, which I already suspected before he even came out and said it. And that's how he knew. because he must have been involved in the reverse engineering of the ships because he worked for Westinghouse, and they're very devious. I mean, that's it. That's how he knew. And that's why I got to sort of off-site, because they probably figured, how the hell does she know this? She's never worked in the government, never worked for CIA, never worked for anybody like that. Yeah, I was a nuclear contractor, but I was a civilian nuclear contractor, not military, not DOE, not DOD, nothing. So how did I know? He was probably figuring, how the shit does she know this? Well, obviously.
Right. Let me have a follow-up. I have a follow-up question for that. Okay, so it's possible, with what you just revealed, that Stanton Friedman, who was, admired by the UFO community, all, 50, 60, whatever years he was doing this, he died in his 80s, that he might have been here to manage the narrative and what would get released to humanity. So he was here like the manager of the narrative to make sure that we didn't really find out absolutely what's going on. So, Mike, I want to go back to so this was a colleague, and say the question again he asked. What was the question he asked you?
So, Susan. So what is the name of the blue aliens that run Area 51?
There in the room when you responded, when he asked that.
There was one or two other Westinghouse engineers, and there was 3 or 4 of the in-house so-called permanent Westinghouse employees that go on their Westinghouse employee team that go around, and they run all the eddy current testing on all the steam generators. So there's like 4 and permanent Westinghouse eddy current employees, and there was like 3 Westinghouse engineers, and there were some other, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 people in there from the local utility, and that was it. Okay,
so you had a lot of witnesses. So you could have been, somebody's asking about the blue aliens. You could have been joking back and say, they're the blah, blah. And so they could have all just laughed. Ha, 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 right? So what was their response when you responded?
They didn't laugh. They didn't respond. They didn't do anything.
Okay.
They acted totally oblivious to it.
And then you found out how? Go over that again. You found out what, by called into the office, a memo? How did you find out the next day?
No. I was still in the break room 2 hours later, and one of the Westinghouse in-house personnel, I'm not going to say his name, he was sort of sympathetic toward me because he's had a lot of experiences too, but he's also had my labs, and he's also had interrogations and torture and everything. And this guy, he was a very religious Bible thumper freak, but he was sympathetic to me because he was open-minded to this stuff like I was, and he saw what happened, and he was shocked. And he came in later and said, because he was one of the ones that had to escort me off site, and he asked me what happened, and I told him, and he said, "See, you knew." He said, "It wasn't anything you did wrong. It was they set you up or something." And I said, "What do you mean they set me up?" And so this goes back to an outage that I did in Vermont. There was a guy there, a site coordinator for a local health physics tech company, and he didn't like me at all. And his whole demeanor, I think he was an abuser, a woman abuser, his whole demeanor. And he couldn't stand me because and this is in Brattleboro, Vermont now. And he was a local, and he was also the coordinator for a health physics contractor company. And he didn't like me from day one. I rub a lot of people wrong. Well, anyway, I would be on the phone with my credit union because they got my balance messed up, and I was going to end up sleeping in the street if I didn't get it straightened out because I was renting a hotel room, as we all do when we're on the road. And they were about to kick me out if I couldn't make the payment, and the payment wasn't going through. Well, I was cussing and yelling and everything on the phone, and the break area, and he heard me, and he got mad at me, and he couldn't stand me. Well, as it is, I never stepped foot in that plant site. I never wore the badge. I never wore the TLD or anything like that. So technically speaking, if I was never issued a badge, I don't have to put that down as one of